What deployment souvenir raises the most questions? Kirkuk, 2010. Halfway through my first deployment as a signal specialist, I accidentally adopted a rooster. It wasn't planned. One morning during a resupply convoy, we stopped at a bombed-out farm on the outskirts of town. While our guys pulled perimeter, I went to set up comms and heard frantic clucking. Out from a half-collapsed chicken coop waddled this mean-looking red rooster, missing a few tail feathers, glaring at me like I'd trespassed on his kingdom. I tossed him a cracker from my MRE, and that was the beginning of a relationship I still don't understand. He followed me back to the Humvee, hopped onto the bumper, and refused to leave. The squad thought it was hilarious. They named him Colonel Sanders, and by the time we rolled back to base, he was roosting in the back seat like he'd signed a contract. Command's official stance was no animals, but the colonel had a way of endearing himself. He strutted around like he was in charge, crowed at sunrise sharp enough to beat our alarms, and even pecked the boots of anyone trying to sneak into the talk after hours. One night, we took indirect fire. Couple mortars hit close. When the dust settled, we realized the colonel had vanished. 10 minutes later, we find him standing on the HESCO barrier, crowing his head off like he'd scared the insurgents off himself. Morale shot up every time he did something ridiculous. But the souvenir part, that came at redeployment. Most folks bring home patches, flags, maybe a rug. Me, I snuck a live rooster onto a C-17. It wasn't easy. Took weeks of paperwork magic from a sympathetic supply sergeant and a vet check from civil affairs. Technically, he was logged as training livestock, which I guess made him legal. When we landed stateside, customs looked at me, looked at the crate, heard the rooster crow, and just waved me through like they didn't want to deal with it. Bringing him home was only half problem. Explaining him was the rest. First barbecue back, my uncle asks what I brought back from deployment. I gesture to the backyard, where the colonel is terrorizing the neighbor's dog. The silence was priceless. Every party since, someone points to him and asks, "Wait, is that a war rooster?" He's been in family photos, he's shown up in my kids' school projects, and he still crows every morning like he's calling Reveille. When people ask why I went through all that trouble, I tell them the truth. Flags fade, coins get lost, rugs wear out, but a rooster that once stood on a HESCO barrier in Iraq and screamed at mortars like he owned the sky, that's a deployment souvenir nobody forgets.